true. Look me in the eye and tell me this isn't true. You can't even deny it, can you, you monster?
You know what they say about perfect marriages? They're perfectly fake. Mine was a masterpiece of deception, painted in designer colors and framed by social media posts that screamed power couple goals. But behind all that Instagram perfection, my wife Vanessa was screwing her boss while I played the role of the oblivious husband who paid for her lifestyle. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. I'm Andrew Scott, 41 years old, and I used to think I was living the American dream. Independent investor, nice house in Riverside Heights, married to a corporate lawyer who looked like she stepped off a magazine cover, the kind of woman who posted motivational quotes about strong women while treating me like her personal ATM. Andrew, did you transfer the money for my spa weekend? Vanessa called from the kitchen, her voice carrying that particular tone that meant she wasn't really asking. I looked up from my laptop where I'd been reviewing investment portfolios. Which spa weekend? The one I told you about, with the girls. We're going to that place in Napa Valley. She appeared in the doorway of my home office, perfectly dressed even at 8 in the morning, holding her phone like it was a weapon. Don't tell me you forgot. I hadn't forgotten. I'd just been wondering why a spa weekend cost $3,000. Right, the wellness retreat. How could I forget about your self-care? She missed the sarcasm entirely. Good. And remember, I have that dinner meeting tonight with Colin and the partners. Don't wait up. Colin Drake, senior partner at Morrison, Drake & Associates. 50-something, drives a vintage Mercedes, and has the kind of old money confidence that makes people like me invisible. Also, according to the credit card statements I'd been quietly reviewing, the man who'd been dining with my wife at expensive restaurants twice a week for the past 3 months. Another dinner meeting, I said, keeping my voice neutral. You've been working a lot of late nights lately. That's what success looks like, Andrew. Maybe you'd understand if you had more ambition. She checked her reflection in the hallway mirror, adjusting her perfectly styled blonde hair. Some of us can't just sit at home playing with other people's money. There it was. The casual contempt wrapped in a smile. Vanessa had perfected the art of making insults sound like observations. After 12 years of marriage, I'd become an expert at recognizing the technique. You're right, I said. I should probably get a real job. Maybe at your firm. I could learn a lot from Colin. She paused, and for just a second I saw something flicker in her eyes. Panic? Guilt? But then she laughed. Oh, honey, you're not law firm material. You're more of a behind-the-scenes type. Behind the scenes. That was me, all right. The invisible husband who made the money, paid the bills, and stayed quiet while his wife climbed the social ladder using other men as rungs. After she left, I sat in my office staring at the stack of credit card statements I'd been analyzing. Vanessa thought I was just some boring guy who moved money around for rich people. What she didn't realize was that moving money around had taught me how to track it. Every transaction told a story, and the story these statements told was fascinating. Dinner at Le Bernardin, $340. Wine bar on Fifth Avenue, $180. Hotel bar at the Ritz, $220. All on nights when Vanessa claimed to be working late or attending networking events. All charged within an hour of similar charges on what I'd discovered was Colin Drake's corporate card. My phone buzzed with a text from Luke, my gym buddy, and one of the few people who knew the real Andrew Scott. Beer tonight. Sarah's working late. Luke Martinez was a contractor who'd grown up in the same blue-collar neighborhood I'd escaped from. Unlike me, he'd never tried to pretend he was something he wasn't. His wife Sarah was a nurse who worked actual late shifts, not the imaginary kind. Can't. Wife has another dinner meeting. Rain check? Dude, she has more dinner meetings than a politician. What's she running for? Good question. I was starting to think the answer was away from her marriage. I spent the afternoon doing what I do best, research. Amazing what you can learn about someone when you know where to look. Colin Drake lived in a penthouse on the Upper East Side, drove that Mercedes I'd heard about, and according to public records, was in the middle of a messy divorce from his wife of 23 years. The divorce filing made for interesting reading. Mrs. Drake was asking for everything, claiming adultery and financial misconduct. The filing was dated 6 months ago, right around the time Vanessa's networking schedule had gotten so busy. At 7 o'clock, I drove to Morrison, Drake & Associates. Not to spy, exactly. Just to see if my wife was really working late like she claimed. The building was mostly dark except for a few scattered office windows. I didn't see Vanessa's BMW in the parking garage, but I did see Colin's Mercedes at Le Bernardin. I sat in my car across the street from the restaurant, feeling like a character in a bad movie. Through the window, I could see them at a corner table. Vanessa was laughing at something Colin was saying, her hand resting on his arm. She looked happier than I'd seen her in years. That's when I made my decision. Not to confront them, not to make a scene. Something much more interesting. I was going to find out exactly how deep this went, and then I was going to do what I do best. Move some money around. But first, I needed to understand the full scope of what I was dealing with. Vanessa wasn't just cheating, she was performing. Every Instagram post, every dinner party story, every casual mention of her successful career was part of an elaborate show, and I'd been the audience, applauding politely while she auditioned for her next role. The next morning, Vanessa was in an unusually good mood. She hummed while making her protein smoothie and actually kissed my cheek before leaving for work. "How was dinner?" I asked. "Productive. Colin thinks I'm ready for the next level. He's going to recommend me for the partnership track." Partnership track. Right. I wondered what qualifications she'd demonstrated to earn that recommendation. "That's great, honey. You've worked so hard for this." She beamed at me like I was a golden retriever who just performed a simple trick. "I knew you'd understand. This is going to change everything for us." She was right about that. It was going to change everything, just not the way she thought. After she left, I called my old mentor, Mike Romano. Big Mike, as everyone called him, was a retired police detective who taught me everything I knew about investigation back when I was considering a career in law enforcement. These days, he ran a small private investigation firm and owed me a favor from when I'd helped him sort out his retirement investments. "Andrew, how's married life treating you?" "Like a learning experience. Mike, I need some advice. Hypothetically speaking, if someone wanted to verify their spouse's work schedule, what would be the best way to do that?" There was a pause. Hypothetically speaking, that someone might want to be very careful about how they go about it. But there are ways. Legal ways. Want to meet for coffee? Big Mike looked exactly like what Central Casting would order for a retired cop. Thick gray mustache, coffee-stained shirt, and eyes that had seen everything twice. We met at a diner in Queens, far from anywhere Vanessa or her friends might accidentally appear. "So," he said, stirring sugar into his coffee, "we're talking about adultery investigation?" "We're talking about getting facts. I need to know what's really going on before I make any decisions," Mike nodded. "Smart approach. Most guys go off half-cocked, make a scene, and end up with nothing but legal bills. You want to do this right, you gather evidence first, make decisions second." He slid a business card across the table. "This is a guy I know, does corporate investigation, very discreet. But honestly, Andrew, you seem like a smart guy. You probably don't need to hire anyone. You just need to know what to look for." For the next hour, Mike gave me a crash course in surveillance techniques, financial investigation, and evidence gathering. Nothing illegal, nothing that would get me in trouble, just the kind of methodical approach that had made me successful in business. "The key," he said, "is documentation. Dates, times, locations, expenses. Build a timeline. And remember, people having affairs get sloppy. They think they're being careful, but they're not. They're thinking with their emotions, not their brains." That afternoon, I started building my timeline. I went through 6 months of credit card statements, phone records, and Vanessa's social media posts. The pattern was clearer than I'd expected. Every networking event corresponded to a charge at an expensive restaurant or bar. Every late meeting happened on nights when Colin's corporate card showed similar charges. Vanessa's Instagram posts about working hard and building my career were all time-stamped from locations that had nothing to do with her office. But the real revelation came when I checked her gym membership. Vanessa had been talking about her personal trainer, Marcus, for months, how he was helping her reach her fitness goals, how important it was for her to stay in shape for her career. According to the gym's records, she'd canceled her last 15 sessions. So where was she going twice a week when she claimed to be working out? I found out Thursday afternoon. I followed her from the office to an apartment building on the Upper West Side. She had her own key. I sat in my car for 2 hours watching the building. At 5:30, Colin Drake's Mercedes pulled up. He went inside. An hour later, they came out together, got in his car, and drove to dinner. That night, Vanessa came home at 11, full of stories about her challenging workout and the networking event she'd attended afterward. She even complained about how sore she was from Marcus pushing her so hard. "You should meet him sometime," she said, rubbing her neck theatrically. "He's amazing. Really knows how to work out all the tension." I bet he did. Friday morning, I made some phone calls. First to our bank, then to our credit card companies, then to our financial advisor. Just routine account management, I explained. Updating security protocols, reviewing spending patterns, making sure everything was properly documented. By Friday afternoon, I had a complete picture of our financial situation, and more importantly, complete control over it. Vanessa might think she was the smart one in this marriage, but she'd made a crucial mistake. She'd let me handle all the money. That weekend, Vanessa announced she was going to a legal conference in Boston. Great networking opportunity, she explained. Colin thinks it's important for my career development. I'm sure he did. After she left, I spent Saturday afternoon at the gym with Luke. Real gym, real workout, not whatever kind of exercise my wife had been getting. You seem different, Luke said as we finished our sets. More focused. Just thinking about some changes I need to make. Everything okay at home? I considered telling him everything, but decided against it. Luke was a good friend, but he was also the kind of guy who might try to talk me out of what I was planning. Or worse, try to talk me into confronting Vanessa directly. Everything's fine. Just some business decisions I need to make. Sunday evening, Vanessa returned from her conference with stories about seminars and networking sessions. She seemed relaxed, refreshed, and slightly sunburned. Interesting, since Boston had been cloudy and rainy all weekend. The Hamptons, where Colin owned a beach house, had been sunny. "How was your weekend?" she asked, not really listening to my answer as she scrolled through her phone. "Quiet. Did some research, made some plans." "That's nice, honey." She was looking at photos on her phone, smiling at something. "Oh, I need to transfer some money to my personal account. The conference expenses were more than I expected." "No problem. I'll take care of it tomorrow." But I wouldn't. Tomorrow, I was going to start taking care of a lot of things. Monday morning started like any other day, except for the phone calls I'd been making since 6 a.m. By the time Vanessa left for work, I'd already spoken to our bank, 3 credit card companies, our investment advisor, and the management company for our country club. "Don't forget about the charity gala next week," Vanessa said, checking her reflection one last time. "It's important for my image at the firm." "Wouldn't miss it," I said, though technically she'd be missing it. At 9 a.m., I walked into Morrison, Drake & Associates and asked to speak with the managing partner, Robert Morrison. I'd done some research on Morrison over the weekend. Old school lawyer, built the firm from nothing, very concerned about reputation and propriety. "Mr. Scott," Morrison said, shaking my hand in his wood-paneled office. "What can I do for you?" I wanted to discuss some concerns about potential conflicts of interest involving my wife's career development. Morrison's expression grew serious. "What kind of concerns?" I laid out the evidence methodically. Not the personal stuff about the affair, but the professional implications. The dinners charged to client accounts, the apartment that appeared to be paid for through firm expenses, the weekend trips that were being billed as business development. "I'm not making accusations," I said carefully. "I'm just concerned that my wife might be unknowingly involved in some questionable expense reporting. I thought you should be aware." Morrison took notes as I talked. "This is very serious, Mr. Scott. We'll need to conduct a full investigation." "Of course, and I want to be clear that I'm not trying to damage my wife's career. I just think she might be getting bad advice from someone who doesn't have her best interests at heart." After I left Morrison's office, I drove to the country club where Vanessa spent her Saturday afternoons networking with the other lawyers' wives. I had a brief conversation with the membership director about updating our account information. "Actually," I said, "I need to remove my wife from the account temporarily. She's starting a new position, and there might be some conflict of interest issues. Just until we sort everything out." "Of course, Mr. Scott. We'll update the records immediately." My next stop was Vanessa's gym. I explained to the manager that we were reviewing all our monthly expenses and needed to cancel some services. "Including the personal training sessions she's been missing?" "Especially those." By noon, I'd systematically dismantled the financial infrastructure that supported Vanessa's lifestyle. Credit cards canceled, bank accounts frozen pending review, club membership suspended, gym membership terminated. Even her monthly spa appointments had been canceled due to payment processing issues. The beauty of it was that none of it would show up immediately. Credit cards don't get declined until you try to use them. Club privileges don't disappear until you try to use them. Vanessa wouldn't know anything was wrong until she tried to live her double life. I didn't have to wait long. At 2:30, my phone rang. Vanessa calling from the restaurant where she was apparently having lunch with Colin. "Andrew, there's something wrong with my credit card. It was declined." "That's strange. Did you call the company?" "They said the account was canceled. How is that possible?" "I have no idea. Let me look into it. Use the other card for now." I tried. Same thing. Weird. Maybe it's some kind of security issue. I'll call them this afternoon. There was a pause. What am I supposed to do right now? I'm at lunch with a client. Can't Colin cover it? I'm sure the firm will reimburse him. Another pause, longer this time. Fine, but fix this, Andrew. This is embarrassing. She hung up without saying goodbye. I sat in my office, imagining the conversation she was having with Colin, the scrambling, the excuses, the growing realization that something was very wrong. At 4 o'clock, she called again. The club says my membership is suspended. What the hell is going on? Suspended? That doesn't make sense. What reason did they give? They said there were questions about the account. Andrew, I was supposed to meet Rebecca Morrison there for drinks. Do you know how this looks? Rebecca Morrison, the managing partner's wife. This was getting better by the minute. I'm sure it's just a misunderstanding. I'll straighten it out. You better, and find out what happened to my credit cards. I have the charity gala this weekend. About that gala. I'd made one more phone call that morning to the event organizer. Explained that my wife was dealing with some professional issues and wouldn't be able to attend. Asked them to remove her from the seating chart and the program where she was listed as a sponsor. At 6 o'clock, Vanessa came home in a fury. She stormed into my office where I was calmly reviewing investment reports. What did you do? I'm sorry? Don't play dumb with me, Andrew. My cards are canceled, my club membership is suspended, and somehow my name got removed from the charity gala. What did you do? I looked up from my papers, keeping my expression neutral. I haven't done anything. Maybe you should ask Colin. He seems to be involved in most of your activities these days. The color drained from her face. What's that supposed to mean? It means I know about the apartment on the Upper West Side. I know about the dinners that aren't business meetings. I know about the weekend conference that was actually a trip to the Hamptons. Should I continue? She sat down heavily in the chair across from my desk. For the first time in years, Vanessa was speechless. How long have you known? Long enough to document everything, long enough to protect myself, long enough to make some decisions about our future. Andrew, I can explain. I'm sure you can. You're very good at explaining things, like how working out with Marcus was so important for your career, even though you haven't been to the gym in 2 months, or how those networking dinners were crucial for your advancement, even though they were all at romantic restaurants. She started to cry, not the elegant tears she used when she wanted something, but ugly, desperate sobs. It's not what you think. Colin and I were not just having an affair. We're in love. He's going to leave his wife. His wife already left him. She filed for divorce 6 months ago, citing adultery. But I'm sure you knew that. Vanessa's sobs got louder. You don't understand. You've never understood what I need. You're content to just sit here and play with numbers while I'm trying to build something real. You're right. I don't understand. I don't understand how building something real requires lying to your husband, stealing from your firm, and destroying your marriage. But maybe that's just me. I never stole anything. I opened a folder on my desk and pulled out a stack of documents. These are copies of expense reports filed by Colin Drake over the past 6 months, dinners with clients that were actually dinners with you, hotel charges for business trips that were actually romantic getaways, car service charges for client meetings that were actually rides to your apartment, all billed to client accounts. Her face went white. How did you get those? Edel, let's just say I have friends in interesting places. The point is, Vanessa, you might not have stolen the money directly, but you certainly benefited from it. And now the firm knows. You told them? I expressed some concerns about potential conflicts of interest. They're conducting their own investigation. She stood up abruptly, knocking over the chair. You bastard! You're trying to destroy my career. Your career was built on lies and other people's money. I'm just letting reality catch up with the fiction. What do you want? Money? The house? I'll give you whatever you want in the divorce. I smiled for the first time in months. Vanessa, you don't have anything to give me. I've been supporting your lifestyle for 12 years. Everything you think you own, I paid for. The question is, what are you going to do now? She stared at me for a long moment, and I could see her mind working, calculating, planning, looking for an angle. Colin will take care of me. He loves me. Colin is about to lose his job and half his assets to his ex-wife. But you're right. Maybe he'll take care of you. Maybe you can take care of each other. I handed her an envelope from my desk drawer. Separation agreement. I've already signed it. Very generous terms, considering. You can keep your personal belongings and your car. I'll even pay for your apartment for 3 months, just to be sporting. She ripped open the envelope and scanned the documents. This is insane. I'm not signing this. That's your choice. But you should know that if we end up in court, all of this evidence becomes public record, including the photos of you and Colin at his beach house last weekend. You had me followed? I had the situation documented. There's a difference. Vanessa crumpled the papers and threw them at me. You think you're so smart, don't you? You think you've won something? I think I've learned something. About you, about me, about what I'm willing to accept in my life, and what I'm not. She stormed out of the office, and I heard her upstairs, slamming drawers and closet doors. An hour later, she came back down with 2 suitcases. This isn't over, Andrew. Yes, it is. She paused at the front door, and for a moment I thought she might apologize, might show some remorse for what she'd done to our marriage. Instead, she said, You'll regret this. Colin and I will figure something out, and you'll be sorry you tried to destroy us. After she left, I poured myself a bourbon and sat in my office, looking at the separation agreement she'd thrown at me. I smoothed out the papers and put them back in the folder. She was wrong about one thing. I didn't think I'd won anything, but I definitely stopped losing. The next few days were like watching a slow-motion car crash. Vanessa had moved into Colin's penthouse, which would have been romantic if he hadn't been served with foreclosure papers the same week. Apparently, his wife's divorce attorney was very thorough. I found out about their living situation from Rebecca Morrison, of all people. She called me Tuesday afternoon. Andrew, I wanted to reach out about the situation at the firm. Robert told me about your conversation. I appreciate that, Rebecca. I hope I did the right thing. You absolutely did, but I wanted you to know that Vanessa has been telling people you're having some kind of breakdown, that you've become obsessed with destroying her career out of jealousy. Interesting strategy. Paint me as the crazy husband while she played the victim. What do you think? I asked. Rebecca laughed. I think a man having a breakdown doesn't methodically document financial irregularities and present them to senior management. I think a man having a breakdown makes scenes and sends angry emails. You did neither. Thank you for that. There's something else. Vanessa showed up at the club yesterday, claiming there was some mistake about her membership. When they told her it was suspended pending review, she made quite a scene. Very public, very embarrassing. Several of the other wives witnessed it. I could picture it perfectly. Vanessa, dressed to impress, being told she couldn't use the facilities. The whispers, the stares, the social humiliation. I'm sorry to hear that. Don't be. The woman made a fool of herself. And Andrew? The other wives have been talking about her expensive lunches, her designer clothes, her mysterious income sources. People aren't stupid. They've been wondering how a junior associate could afford that lifestyle. After Rebecca hung up, I realized something important was happening. Vanessa's social circle was turning on her. Not because they were loyal to me, but because she'd violated the unspoken rules of their world. She'd been living above her means and flaunting it, and now everyone knew. That evening, Luke came by with beer and pizza. He took one look around the house and whistled. So it's true, Vanessa moved out. News travels fast. Sarah heard it from her friend who works at the hospital. Apparently Vanessa's been telling people you kicked her out because you found out about her promotion. I opened 2 beers and handed him one. What promotion? That's what Sarah wondered. So she did some asking around. Turns out there was no promotion. But there was an investigation at her law firm. Something about expense account fraud. We sat on the back deck, drinking beer and watching the sunset. It felt good to have a friend over, someone who knew me before I became half of a power couple. You want to talk about it? Luke asked. So I told him everything. The affair, the financial deception, the investigation, the separation. Luke listened without interrupting, occasionally shaking his head. Jesus, Andrew, how long was this going on? Months, maybe longer. I was so focused on work, on providing for her lifestyle, that I didn't see what was happening right in front of me. And now? Now I'm learning to live alone again. It's not as hard as I thought it would be. Luke was quiet for a while. Then he said, You know what the crazy part is? You seem happier, more relaxed, like you've been holding your breath for years and finally let it out. He was right. For the first time in months, I wasn't walking on eggshells, waiting for Vanessa's next criticism or demand. I wasn't checking credit card statements every morning, wondering what she'd spent money on. I wasn't making excuses for her behavior or pretending our marriage was something it wasn't. There's something else, Luke said. Sarah wanted me to ask you something. Her book club is looking for new members. It's mostly women, but they have been wanting to add some guys to the mix. Interested? A book club. When was the last time I'd read something for pleasure instead of profit? What kind of books? Whatever they want. This month it's some thriller about a guy who discovers his wife is living a double life. We both started laughing at the same time. Thursday morning, I got a call from Robert Morrison. Andrew, I wanted to update you on our investigation. We've found significant irregularities in Colin Drake's expense reporting. He's been suspended pending a full audit. I'm sorry to hear that. Don't be. This kind of behavior reflects poorly on the entire firm. We have a reputation to maintain." He paused. "There's something else. Your wife has been making some accusations about your mental state, claiming you're harassing her, interfering with her career. I wanted you to know that we don't take those claims seriously." "I appreciate that, Robert." "The truth is, she's been displaying some concerning behavior herself. Emotional outbursts, unprofessional conduct, failure to maintain appropriate boundaries with senior staff. We're considering whether she's a good fit for the firm." After Morrison hung up, I realized Vanessa's strategy was backfiring. Instead of making me look unstable, her accusations were drawing attention to her own behavior. The more she protested her innocence, the guiltier she looked. Friday afternoon, I ran into one of Vanessa's friends at the grocery store. Jennifer Walsh, married to a hedge fund manager, mother of 2, and one of the most well-connected gossips in our social circle. "Andrew, how are you holding up?" "I'm doing well, Jennifer. Thanks for asking." "We've all been so worried about you. Vanessa said you've been under a lot of stress lately." "Did she? That's interesting. I've actually been feeling better than I have in months." Jennifer looked confused. "But she said you've been having some kind of breakdown, that you've become obsessed with her career success." "Jennifer, can I ask you something? Does it seem like I'm having a breakdown?" She studied my face carefully. I was clean-shaven, well-dressed, calm, and coherent. Nothing like the unstable husband Vanessa had been describing. "No," she said slowly. "You seem perfectly normal. Better than normal, actually." "That's because I am. Vanessa and I are separated because she was having an affair with her boss. Everything else is just noise." Jennifer's eyes widened. "An affair? With Colin Drake?" "Among other things. But I'm sure you'll hear all the details eventually. You know how these things go." I left Jennifer standing in the produce section, probably already composing the text messages she'd send to the other wives. By evening, everyone in our social circle would know the truth. Saturday morning, my phone started ringing early. Friends, neighbors, acquaintances all calling to check on me and get the real story. I was polite but direct with everyone. Vanessa had been unfaithful, we were separated, and I was doing fine. The interesting thing was how many people said they weren't surprised. Apparently, Vanessa's behavior had been raising eyebrows for months. The expensive clothes, the mysterious income, the way she talked about her career advancement. People had been wondering, but no one wanted to ask direct questions. Sunday afternoon, I was working in my garden when my neighbor, Mrs. Chen, came over with a plate of cookies. "Andrew, I wanted to tell you how sorry I am about your situation." "Thank you, Mrs. Chen. That's very kind. But I also wanted to say that some of us have been concerned about Vanessa for a while. The way she talked about you, the things she said about your marriage. It wasn't right." "What kind of things?" Mrs. Chen looked uncomfortable. "She made it sound like you were holding her back, like you weren't ambitious enough for her. But we could see how hard you worked, how much you supported her dreams. It didn't make sense." After she left, I realized something important. Vanessa hadn't just been lying to me about the affair. She'd been lying to everyone about our marriage, creating a narrative where I was the problem, the obstacle to her success, setting up the story she'd need when she finally left me for Colin. But now that narrative was falling apart, and she was scrambling to create a new one. The problem was, reality has a way of undermining fiction, and the reality was that I'd been a good husband to a woman who'd never deserved it. By Monday morning, the gossip network had done its work. Everyone in our social circle knew about Vanessa's affair, Colin's suspension, and the investigation at Morrison, Drake, and Associates. What they didn't know was how far Vanessa was willing to go to salvage her reputation. I found out when I got to my office and found her waiting in the parking lot. "We need to talk," she said, getting out of her car as I pulled up. She looked terrible. Dark circles under her eyes, her usually perfect hair pulled back in a messy ponytail, wearing jeans and a sweater instead of her designer suits. "I think we've said everything we need to say." "Andrew, please, 5 minutes." Against my better judgment, I let her follow me into my office. She sat across from my desk in the same chair where she'd broken down the week before, but this time she was composed, calculating. "I know you're angry," she began, "and you have every right to be. But this war you're waging against me, it has to stop." "I'm not waging war against anyone. I'm just not supporting your lifestyle anymore." "You destroyed my career. You got Colin suspended. You turned our friends against me." I documented financial irregularities and reported them to the appropriate authorities. Colin destroyed his own career by billing personal expenses to client accounts, and our friends turned against you because you lied to them. She leaned forward. "What do you want? What will it take for you to stop this?" "I want you to sign the separation agreement and leave me alone." "And if I don't?" Then we go to court, and everything becomes public record. Your affair, Colin's expense account fraud, the apartment he was paying for with client money, all of it. Vanessa was quiet for a long moment. Then she smiled, and I recognized the expression. It was the same smile she used when she thought she'd found an angle, a way to get what she wanted. You know, Andrew, you're not as smart as you think you are. Meaning? Meaning you've made some enemies. Colin has friends, powerful friends, people who don't appreciate what you've done to him. Are you threatening me? I'm warning you. Back off, or things are going to get very unpleasant for you. I laughed. Vanessa, Colin is about to lose his job, his law license, and half his assets. What exactly is he going to do to me? You'll see. After she left, I called Big Mike. She threatened you? He asked after I'd explained the conversation. More like warned me. Said Colin had powerful friends who weren't happy with me. Colin Drake doesn't have friends. He has people who tolerated him because he was useful. Now that he's toxic, they'll run from him like he's radioactive. So I shouldn't be worried? You should be careful. Desperate people do stupid things. But worried? No. You've got the law on your side, and more importantly, you've got the truth. That afternoon, I got a call from an unknown number. Mr. Scott, this is Detective Martinez with the Nassau County Police Department. We've received a complaint about harassment and stalking. We'd like to speak with you. My heart sank. Vanessa had gone to the police. I met Detective Martinez at the station that evening. She was a middle-aged woman with tired eyes and a no-nonsense attitude. Mr. Scott, your wife has filed a complaint alleging that you've been harassing her, interfering with her employment, and engaging in stalking behavior. What's your response to these allegations? I pulled out a folder I'd prepared. Detective, I think there's been a misunderstanding. My wife and I are separated. I discovered she was having an affair and reported some financial irregularities to her employer. Since then, she's been making false accusations about my mental state and behavior. I handed her copies of the separation agreement, the financial documents I'd given to Morrison, and a timeline of events. Detective Martinez reviewed everything carefully. Mr. Scott, have you been following your wife, calling her repeatedly, interfering with her work? No, ma'am. I've had minimal contact with her since she moved out. The only time I've spoken to her employer was to report potential fraud, which is not only legal, but arguably my civic duty. And the harassment allegations? I canceled credit cards and accounts that I was paying for. I removed her from club memberships that were in my name. I documented evidence of adultery and preparation for divorce proceedings. None of that constitutes harassment. Detective Martinez made some notes. Mr. Scott, I have to ask, are you planning any retaliation against your wife or her friend? Detective, I'm a middle-aged businessman going through a divorce. My idea of retaliation is canceling someone's gym membership. I'm not interested in revenge, just in protecting myself legally and financially. She smiled slightly. That's probably the most reasonable thing I've heard all week. Mr. Scott, based on what you've shown me, I don't see any evidence of harassment or stalking. Your wife's complaint appears to be without merit. What happens now? I'll file my report. If your wife continues to make false allegations, she could face charges herself. My advice? Document everything. Avoid contact with her, and let your lawyer handle the divorce. Walking out of the police station, I realized Vanessa had made a serious mistake. By filing a false police report, she'd created an official record of her dishonesty. If we ended up in court, Detective Martinez's report would be very useful. Tuesday morning, I got a call from Robert Morrison. Andrew, I wanted to let you know that we've completed our investigation. Colin Drake has been terminated for cause, and we're referring the matter to the State Bar Association. Your wife has also been let go. For her involvement in the expense account issues? Partly, but also for filing false harassment claims against you and for her general conduct during this situation. She's shown a serious lack of judgment and professionalism. So now both Vanessa and Colin were unemployed. I wondered how long their love would last without the excitement of sneaking around and the financial cushion of steady paychecks. I didn't have to wonder long. Wednesday afternoon, Luke called with news. Dude, you're not going to believe this. Sarah saw your ex at the unemployment office. She was in line to file for benefits. That was fast. It gets better. Apparently she was on the phone the whole time, screaming at someone about how this was all their fault and they needed to fix it. The whole office was staring at her. Let me guess, she was talking to Colin. That'd be my bet. Sarah said she looked like she hadn't slept in days. Real mess. That evening, I was having dinner at a restaurant downtown when I saw them. Vanessa and Colin sitting at a corner table, having what appeared to be a very intense conversation. She was crying, He was gesturing angrily, and they both looked miserable. I asked for my check and left without them seeing me. Whatever they were going through, it wasn't my problem anymore. But apparently, they thought it was. Thursday morning, I found my car vandalized. Someone had keyed the paint, slashed 2 tires, and broken the passenger side mirror. I called the police and filed a report, but I already knew they'd never catch whoever did it. The parking garage at my office building had security cameras, but they were positioned to watch the entrance, not individual parking spaces. What the vandals didn't know was that I'd installed my own security system after Vanessa's threats. A small wireless camera hidden in my car that activated when it detected motion. The footage was very interesting. It showed Colin Drake, clearly identifiable, damaging my car at 2 a.m. He was drunk, stumbling, and talking to himself the entire time. At one point, he looked directly at the camera without realizing it was there. I made copies of the footage and took them to Detective Martinez. "Well," she said after watching the video, "I guess your wife's friend isn't as smart as he thinks he is." "What happens now?" "Now we arrest Mr. Drake for criminal mischief and vandalism. And Mr. Scott, this video pretty much proves that the harassment complaint against you is bogus. Your wife and her boyfriend are the ones engaging in criminal behavior." Colin was arrested Friday morning at his penthouse. The local news picked up the story. Disgraced lawyer arrested for vandalism. It included details about his termination from Morrison, Drake and Associates, and the ongoing investigation into his expense account fraud. Friday afternoon, my phone rang. Vanessa, calling from what sounded like a very public place. "Andrew, you have to drop the charges against Colin." "I don't have to do anything." "He's sorry about your car. He'll pay for the damages. He was drunk. He wasn't thinking clearly. He was drunk at 2 a.m, vandalizing my property. That's not an accident, Vanessa. That's a choice. Please. He's already lost his job. His license is under review. His wife is taking everything. Don't destroy what's left of his life." "I didn't destroy anything. Colin destroyed his own life when he decided to steal from his clients and have an affair with a married woman." There was a long pause. Then Vanessa said something that surprised me. "You're right. This is all my fault. I seduced him. I encouraged him to spend money on me. I pushed him to take risks. He's a good man who made bad choices because of me." "Vanessa, Colin is a middle-aged man who made his own decisions. Don't take responsibility for his actions." "But I do take responsibility. And I'm asking you, as someone who used to love me, to show mercy." I'll think about it." But I already knew what I was going to do. Colin had made his choices, and now he was going to live with the consequences, just like Vanessa was going to live with hers. The war was almost over, but there was still one more battle to fight. Saturday morning, I was working in my garden when a black BMW pulled into my driveway. I didn't recognize the car, but I recognized the man who got out. Thomas Drake, Colin's older brother, a senior partner at one of the city's most prestigious law firms. He was everything Colin pretended to be. Old money, real power, genuine influence. He was also, according to my research, the one family member who'd refused to help Colin with his legal problems. "Mr. Scott, I'm Thomas Drake. I wonder if we could have a conversation." I invited him into my living room, curious about what Colin's brother wanted to discuss. "Mr. Scott, I want to be direct with you. My brother has made some very poor decisions, and he's facing serious consequences. I'm here to ask if there's any way to resolve this situation without further destroying what's left of his reputation. What kind of resolution did you have in mind?" "Colin will plead guilty to the vandalism charges and pay full restitution for your car. He'll also agree to stay away from you and your wife permanently. In exchange, I'm hoping you might be willing to ask the prosecutor to recommend a lenient sentence." I studied Thomas Drake carefully. He was nothing like his brother. Where Colin was flashy and arrogant, Thomas was understated and confident. Where Colin had inherited his position, Thomas had earned his. "Mr. Drake, can I ask you something? Why are you here? From what I understand, you and Colin aren't particularly close." Thomas smiled grimly. "We're not. Colin has been an embarrassment to the family for years, but he's still my brother, and our mother is heartbroken about his situation." "I see. Mr. Scott, I've done some research on you. You're a successful businessman with an excellent reputation. You handled this situation with your wife professionally and legally. You didn't seek revenge. You sought justice. I respect that. Thank you. But Colin is already destroyed. He's lost his job, his license, his marriage, his home. Sending him to jail won't accomplish anything except satisfying a desire for punishment." Thomas was making a good argument, but I sensed there was something else he wasn't telling me. "What aren't you saying, Mr. Drake?" He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Colin attempted suicide last night. He's in the hospital now, stable but under psychiatric observation. That hit me like a punch to the stomach. Whatever Colin had done, I'd never wanted him to hurt himself. I'm sorry to hear that. Mr. Scott, I'm not asking you to forgive my brother or forget what he did. I'm asking you to show mercy to a man who's already punishing himself more than any court ever could. After Thomas left, I sat in my living room thinking about everything that had happened. I'd set out to protect myself from Vanessa's deception, and I'd succeeded. But somewhere along the way, it had become about more than just self-protection. It had become about proving a point, about making them pay for what they'd done to me. The question was, when was enough enough? Sunday afternoon, Vanessa called. Andrew, I heard about Colin, about what happened last night. Thomas told me. How is he? Physically, he's okay. Mentally. She trailed off. Andrew, I know you hate me. I know you think I'm a terrible person, but please don't let Colin destroy himself over this. Vanessa, Colin's problems aren't my fault. I know that, but you have the power to help him, and I'm begging you to use it. What about you? What are your plans? There was a long pause. I'm leaving town. My sister in Phoenix said I could stay with her while I figure things out. Start over somewhere else. That's probably a good idea. Andrew, I want you to know that I'm sorry. Not just sorry I got caught, but sorry for what I did to you, to our marriage, to Colin. I made terrible choices, and I hurt everyone I claimed to care about. It was the first genuine apology I'd heard from her since this whole thing started. I appreciate that, Vanessa. Will you consider dropping the charges against Colin, for me? I'll consider it. Monday morning, I called the district attorney's office and spoke to the prosecutor handling Colin's case. Mr. Scott, are you sure about this? We have clear evidence against him on the vandalism charges. I'm sure. Mr. Drake has agreed to pay full restitution and stay away from me permanently. Given his current mental state and the fact that he's already lost everything else, I think justice has been served. It's your call, Mr. Scott. We'll dismiss the charges. That afternoon, I got a call from Thomas Drake. Mr. Scott, I can't thank you enough. Colin is still in the hospital, but knowing he won't face criminal charges has lifted a tremendous burden from his shoulders. How is he doing? Better. The psychiatrist thinks he'll be able to go home in a few days. He's talking about leaving New York, starting over somewhere else. That's probably for the best. Mr. Scott, there's something else. Colin asked me to give you a message. He said to tell you that he's sorry, and that he knows he doesn't deserve your mercy. Tell him I hope he gets the help he needs. Tuesday morning, I was having coffee on my back deck when Luke stopped by. So it's over? He asked, settling into the chair next to mine. It's over. How do you feel? I thought about it. Tired, relieved, ready to move on with my life. Any regrets? About the divorce? No. About how far it went? Maybe. I never wanted anyone to get hurt. Andrew, you didn't hurt anyone. You just stopped letting them hurt you. That afternoon, I got a package in the mail. No return address, but I recognized Vanessa's handwriting. Inside was a signed copy of the separation agreement and a short note. Andrew, thank you for showing Colin mercy he didn't deserve. I'm leaving for Phoenix tomorrow. I won't contest the divorce or ask for anything beyond what's in this agreement. I hope someday you can forgive me. I hope someday I can forgive myself. Vanessa. Wednesday morning, I drove to my lawyer's office to file the separation agreement. On the way back, I stopped at the cemetery where my parents were buried. I hadn't been there in months, too busy with work and marriage drama to visit. Standing at their graves, I thought about what they would have said about everything that had happened. My father, a practical man who'd worked 2 jobs to support our family, would have approved of how I'd handled the financial aspects. My mother, who'd stayed married to him for 43 years, would have been sad about the divorce, but proud that I'd stood up for myself. I think I'm going to be okay, I said out loud, feeling slightly foolish, but somehow better for saying it. That evening, I was cleaning out my home office when I found a photo from our wedding day. Vanessa looked beautiful in her white dress, and I looked happy in my rented tuxedo. We both looked so young, so hopeful, so certain that we were going to have a perfect life together. I studied the photo for a long time, trying to remember what it felt like to be that optimistic. Then I put it in the box with the other mementos I was donating to charity. Some things were worth keeping, but not everything. Thursday morning, I got a call from Rebecca Morrison. Andrew, Robert, and I wanted to invite you to dinner this weekend. Just the 3 of us, nothing fancy. We feel like we owe you an apology. An apology for what? For not seeing what was happening at the firm sooner, for letting Colin's behavior go unchecked, for not realizing that Vanessa was taking advantage of your generosity. Rebecca, none of that was your responsibility. Maybe not, but we're still sorry it happened. And we want you to know that if you ever need anything, you have friends who care about you. Saturday evening, I had dinner with Robert and Rebecca Morrison at a quiet restaurant downtown. It was the first time in months that I'd socialized with anyone other than Luke, and it felt good to have a normal conversation about books, movies, and current events. You seem different, Rebecca observed over dessert. More relaxed, more yourself. I feel more myself, like I've been wearing a costume for years and finally took it off. What's next for you? Robert asked. I'm thinking about traveling. Maybe taking that trip to Italy I've been putting off for years. Vanessa never wanted to go anywhere that didn't have 5-star hotels and designer shopping. Italy sounds wonderful. Rebecca and I went to Tuscany for our anniversary last year. I'll give you some recommendations. Driving home that night, I realized something important. For the first time in years, I was looking forward to the future instead of just enduring the present. I had plans that didn't revolve around someone else's needs or demands. I had friends who actually liked me, not just what I could provide for them. Sunday morning, I was reading the newspaper when my phone rang. Unknown number, but I answered anyway. Mr. Scott, this is Colin Drake. I almost hung up, but something in his voice made me listen. I wanted to thank you for dropping the charges, and to apologize for everything I did, to you, to my wife, to everyone. How are you doing, Colin? Better. I'm in therapy, I'm not drinking, and I'm trying to figure out how to rebuild my life. It's going to be a long process. Where will you go? My sister lives in Oregon. She's offered to let me stay with her while I get back on my feet. Maybe I'll teach high school, coach soccer, try to do something useful with what's left of my life. That sounds like a good plan. Mr. Scott, I want you to know that Vanessa really did love you. She lost sight of what was important, but she did love you. I know she did, in her own way. I hope you can be happy. You deserve better than what we put you through. After Colin hung up, I sat in my kitchen drinking coffee and thinking about forgiveness. Not the kind of forgiveness that pretends nothing happened, but the kind that lets you stop carrying anger around like a weight. I wasn't ready to forgive Vanessa and Colin completely. Maybe I never would be. But I was ready to stop letting their choices define my life. Monday morning, I called a travel agent and booked a trip to Italy. 3 weeks in Tuscany, staying at small hotels and eating at local restaurants. No itinerary, no schedule, no one to please but myself. Then I called Luke. Italy? That's awesome, man. When do you leave? Next month. I figured it was time to start living again instead of just surviving. Sarah's going to be so jealous. She's been wanting to go to Europe for years. Maybe you guys can come visit me there. I'm thinking about renting a villa for part of the trip. Seriously? Seriously. It's time I started spending money on things that make me happy instead of things that make other people happy. That afternoon, I was working in my garden when Mrs. Chen came over with more cookies. Andrew, you look good. Happy? I feel happy, Mrs. Chen, for the first time in a long time. What will you do with the house? It's very big for one person. I looked at the house Vanessa and I had bought together, decorated together, planned to grow old in together. It was beautiful, but it was full of memories I didn't need to keep. I think I'll sell it, buy something smaller, more suited to my actual life instead of the life I thought I was supposed to want. That sounds very wise. That evening, I sat on my back deck watching the sunset and thinking about everything that had happened. 6 months ago, I'd thought I had a perfect marriage and a perfect life. It had all been an illusion, but at the time, I'd believed it was real. Now I had something better than a perfect life. I had an honest one. No pretense, no performance, no trying to be someone I wasn't, to please someone who didn't really know me. My phone buzzed with a text from Luke. Book club is reading Eat, Pray, Love next month. Sarah says it's perfect timing for your Italy trip. I laughed and texted back, "Tell Sarah I'll send postcards." As the sun set behind the trees, I raised my beer in a toast to no one in particular. Here's to second chances, I said out loud, and to finally getting it right. For the first time in years, I meant every word. 3 weeks later, I was sitting in a cafe in Florence, reading a book and drinking espresso when my phone rang. It was my real estate agent. "Andrew, I have great news. We got an offer on the house. Full asking price, cash buyer, wants to close in 30 days. I looked around at the bustling Italian street, the ancient buildings, the people living their lives without pretense or performance. "Accept it," I said. "I'm ready to start over." And I was.